Sometimes progress feels invisible for so long that you start to think it is not happening at all. That is one of the hardest phases to be in. Because if something is clearly broken, at least you know what the problem is. But this is different. You have been doing things, thinking, trying, adjusting. And yet, when you look back at the last few weeks, it feels like nothing has really changed. That is usually when the thought appears. I am not moving forward. I know how convincing that thought can feel. Because it does not usually arrive out of nowhere. It arrives after effort. After waiting. After trying to be patient longer than you wanted to. And when there is nothing obvious to point to, your mind starts filling in the gap. Maybe none of this is working. Maybe I am still in the same place. Maybe I have just been going in circles. If you feel like you are not moving forward, pause. You do not need to rush to prove that you are progressing. You do not need to force a sense of direction. And you do not need to compare where you are to where you think you should be. Just pause long enough to question the conclusion. Because the feeling of not moving forward is not always accurate. It can feel real. It can feel convincing. But very often, it is based mostly on what you can see. And not everything that is moving is visible yet. That is the part people often forget. You tend to measure progress by outcomes. Clear results. Visible change. Something you can point to and say, there, that proves it. But there are phases in life where progress looks very different from that. Less visible. Less defined. More internal. How you think now. How you respond now. What you are beginning to understand about yourself now. Those things matter. But because they do not always look dramatic, people often fail to count them. I have noticed that some of the most important movement in life does not feel like movement while it is happening. It feels like waiting, or confusion, or slowly changing your mind about things you used to accept without question. That can feel frustrating because it is not the kind of progress you can easily show anyone. Sometimes you are growing in ways that have no obvious proof yet. You are more aware than you were. Less reactive than you were. More honest with yourself than you were. More able to notice what does and does not fit. That is movement. It just may not look the way you expected it to. Let me bring this into something more real. You may have been trying, thinking, re-evaluating, shifting your perspective, pulling back from things that are not right, trying to understand what actually matters now. But because there is no clear external result yet, it feels like you are stuck, like you are in the same place. But you may not be. You may be in a phase where the movement is happening underneath the surface first. And that is still movement. That matters more than it sounds. Because once people decide they are not moving forward, they usually create pressure on top of the uncertainty. Pressure to do more, to go faster, to prove something quickly, to force progress that may not yet be ready to show itself. And that pressure often makes everything feel even more stuck. Because now you are not just in a quiet phase of growth. You are also fighting that phase. I think that is why some people become exhausted even when they are technically still trying. They are not only carrying the work, they are carrying the fear that the work might mean nothing. That is very heavy. So instead of asking, "Why am I not moving forward?" ask something more useful. What might be changing that I have not yet recognized as progress? That question matters because it shifts your attention from what is missing to what is happening, from what is not obvious to what may still be true, from panic to awareness. And once that shifts, something else begins to settle. The pressure reduces. The urgency softens. The constant internal demand to prove your progress right now becomes quieter. Then slowly, you begin to see that you are not still. You are moving. Just not in the way you expected. That is a very different story from being stuck. It means this phase may not be empty. It may just be less visible than you wanted it to be. And from that understanding, real movement becomes easier again. Because now you are not trying to force proof. You are allowing what is already shifting to become clearer. That is often when momentum returns. Not through panic. Not through self-criticism. But through recognizing that the process may be working in quieter ways than you first thought. So if you feel like you are not moving forward, pause. You may not be stuck. You may simply be in a phase where progress is not yet easy to see. A phase where more is changing than your frustration is giving you credit for. And once it becomes clearer, you may realize you were not standing still after all. Sometimes movement is obvious. Sometimes it is quiet. And sometimes the only thing that needs to change first is how closely you are willing to look.